Good morning. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Tony.
I'm Adam.
And tonight we are Unreasonably Speaking Friend Zones. No. Hold on. It's not what you think. What we're going to do tonight, after we welcome Adam back from a nice long journey down to Florida, how was that?
Oh, not too bad. A little bit warmer than here, but first time in Florida that I didn't sweat my ass off for the days I was there.
Nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and explore the different degrees of association we have with people. And it's pretty universal. But a lot of people kind of try to classify, well, it's pretty universal. My friend or someone I know, like, I guess I know them in passing, they're a bar buddy, things of that nature, and we're going to dive into all that stuff. And, of course, Jody is going to be on our live chat with you guys as you jump in and give us your input, and we're going to take it from there.
Yeah, like Melissa said, an associate.
Yeah. So, if you happen to catch our episode, Unreasonably Speaking with the guys, we briefly touched on being careful with your trust and who you trust and how far you allow them to carry that. And we'll start in the lower tiers of our degrees of association, our friend zones, if you will. And kind of start with leeches. We kind of went over those people who really are just attached to you. They drain you, whether it's of financial resources or energy or time, favors, all these different things where it's a give, and there's no ebb and flow. There's no exchange there. It's not a mutual thing.
Or even there might have been in the beginning. I mean, a lot of those times that you get one of those ones that are really stuck onto you, it's because at some point you probably, at the beginning of that friendship, there was a little give and take, but it eventually just started into, I need this, and hey, can you help me out with that? I just need a ride here, and before you know it, you're taking them out of state somewhere because
and it's completely one-sided.
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty much covers it there. But this happens in platonic relationships and romantic relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
When you find yourself just you got that barnacle on your ass, you just can't quite scrape off, and they're this codependent person who just depends on you and depends on you and depends on you. There's no partnership there. There's no exchange there. It's draining. And yet somehow, we describe them as the leech or the barnacle, but when you really look into it, who actually gets stuck? And why? I mean, I know for a couple of examples that I've heard and experienced, part of it's kind of guilt. Like, this person really needs me. They do not have their shit together. I'm not even sure if they can physically survive, continue breathing, continue having bodily functions if it weren't for me. You ever have that kind of hold you up and keep you in bounds? Romantically or with a friend.
Yeah, and I think you see that a lot romantically, but even with friendships, there's that. If you're that kind of good-hearted person that wants to see people do well, you meet this person that, for what you can tell from the outside and in that short time, that they seem like I said, that they're a independent, mostly capable person that just needs a little pick-me-up or just needs a little help with this, needs a little help with that. And like I said, before you know it, you're traveling down this road of where you've done 15 favors in the last month. And
all they can say to you when you ask for something is, I can't.
And they get a little braver each time. It starts out with small things and slowly keeps working its way up.
Not only that, but, not only brave, but bold. Instead of, humbling themselves for that favor, it's taken for granted. And it's like, hey, by the way, I need this. Or not even a call. The call or the message or whatever doesn't even start with, hey, what's up? And it goes into that, and maybe you oblige. And then from there, it's a lot of this, hurry up, where are you? Like, wait a minute. I thought I was doing you a fucking favor.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me? But no, that was a good point you brought up, is that it's not always so obvious from the start. And no matter what friend zone, as we'll highlight more of, that this sort of association started from, a lot of times it just sort of devolves to that.
I think, and some people are just really good at it.
Yeah.
Like, they get by through life by fostering those types of friendships where, like, they start it. You see a bit of it, being a smoker like I am.
Yep.
You'll see it happen where, you're at a party, you meet some people, you're all smoking together, people seem cool. It's like, all right, let's get together and smoke another time. They might have a little bit of smoke with them. And then before you know it, by the second, third time, they never have anything. And they're constantly just saying, hey, you want to come over and smoke? You go over and they don't have shit. Like, oh, I thought you were bringing it. And so that's somewhat common one in that community that you'll find, like I said. And typically they come off as a cool enough person, but eventually it's like, dude, I'm just basically smoking you up for free. And the only reason you're really ever hitting me up, the only time you hit me up, is when you're out of shit and you want me to come over and help you out.
Yeah. And it's the same with, even things like venting. This person calls you up and they just give you all of this verbal vomit when it comes to their problems, or they become what's that term, Jody, that you use? They keep bringing all their problems to you, unloading them on you, and then no matter what you say, they follow the same pattern.
Oh, that's called an asshole. A person that keeps asking the same thing but never takes the advice that you give. It's an asshole.
So that's a kind of leech, right? They're just sucking up all your energy, your intellectual energy, when you're trying to actually, logically come up with a solution for that problem, your emotional energy when you're trying to sympathize or even empathize, and it drives you absolutely banana sandwich. And then, again, with the reciprocation or lack thereof in this case, they may or may not have something going on, but now you're in a pickle. You need some advice, or you at least need an ear there so that you can vent to someone as that friend, as that person you care about, thought cared about you, and they're just too busy. They're unavailable. They might pick up the phone, they might message you twice, and then there's an excuse. But like you said, some people are really good at it, and it's not always so transparent until the pattern follows on and on for way too long.
Because most people have that trust thing. I mean, you have to build that with somebody, and these people that are good at it and are seeking out to, whether it's subconsciously or, that's just who they are subconsciously, they don't even realize that they're a leech, but it's a system of gaining that trust slowly and surely to the point where now you are somewhat attached to that. Like you said, you almost feel bad for this person in a way. So you hear them out, you feel like they don't have anybody else out there that they can vent these problems to and help taking a little weight off them. And then maybe there's even a little selfish part of you that feels good about helping them out.
Oh, sure. Like we've talked about before, there's no such thing as a selfless good deed.
Absolutely. So eventually, that weight will come around and start weighing you down to the point it's like, why the fuck am I putting up with this person anymore? It's, they keep calling me up every other week with their problems, but I have a problem this week and now they're nowhere to be found. Until 3 days later when they have another problem and now they're hitting me up again, not giving a shit about the stuff that I tried to talk to them about.
Right. Or any consideration to what you've been going through, or, how's your family? None of it. It's not even in their mind. I like what Melissa said here. She she calls them psychic vampires. That's a good one. It's still good. It's a parasite. And actually, quick plug here real quick, that reminds me of my favorite horror sci-fi novel series, Necroscope, where, Jody knows it. Jody knows it. Where it's pretty much a unique vampire mythology where, what makes a vampire is a human being having been taken over by an actual leech. And it fucking embeds into their skin and attaches to their brain and their spinal cord, and it's fucking crazy. But hey, that's the parasite connection. Anyway, I get sidetracked. So, let's kind of pluck the leech, throw it back into the moss. That's, all the pond scum and all that shit, and kind of move on. Next rung up, what do we got?
Moving into acquaintances, like Melissa said, probably more that type of person that you're aware of, whether it be through work or some hobby you have, somebody that you pass by, you maybe have a conversation or two with, but you don't have their phone number. You're probably not even friends on Facebook or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just someone that you're aware of in your life that is almost a neutral feeling of.
Yeah. Okay. And there are varying degrees of amicability when it comes to that. You see him at work, you see him at just walking down the street or at the store or whatever, and yeah, you either think they're pretty cool, but any number of reasons could keep them at that tier, at that friend zone, which is, I have enough friends already, and clearly so do they. I don't have time for this shit. Or maybe they've just got that slight trace of IDV that kind of keeps you at bay. You know what I'm saying?
Even my dad, he was, he's been a 12-pack a day drinker his entire life. My entire life of knowing him anyhow. And when we used to live up in Michigan, everywhere up there you have tons of liquor stores, but my dad would always go to the same one, that he kind of created this rapport with the person running that place. And that to me is more of an acquaintance. They would talk for a few minutes, hey, how's your day? How are the kids and shit? But overall, like I said, they're not inviting each other over to their house.
Right.
Not, it's just someone that my dad would see every day for a few minutes while he was buying beer.
Yeah.
But knew their names, like I said, knew their kids type shit. But just overall, they're not ever going to hang out outside of that environment.
Right. You know them in passing. You know of them. Like if somebody asks you a name to you got a face to the name, basically. And someone says, "Hey, do you know Jim?" "Yeah, I know Jim. I see him at the liquor store all the time." "Yeah, he's the one with the 2 kids." Yeah, of course. Decent person. But let's not undersell these people, because they are essential to your day-to-day. These people are good to have, and maybe they become a higher rung on the ladder of those friend zones, and maybe not. Either way, it's all right.
My dad, once again, he loves pizza. Used to, when I was a teenager, he'd be getting it twice a week all the time, to my detriment weight-wise. But eventually he would order from the same place all the time. I mean, my dad's just a simple kind of dude that he picks a place that he likes and he sticks to it. So this dude named Dominic that you'd order pizza from all the time for almost a decade, they only really knew each other because of that relationship, that he's the guy that runs his pizza place. Before my dad moved, and they actually had to shut down that pizza joint, so my dad invited them over for a fire and had this kind of going away party for him. So while they had been acquaintances this whole time, just through that, eventually built up to, all right, you guys are going to be gone forever. Let's have this last big thing, So I, like, to your point, just eventually that you can transcend that a little bit.
Yeah. And, I feel like a lot of what we're going to be jumping back to throughout the course of this episode is boundaries, and just knowing where to have them. And that instance just shows how your dad utilized those kinds of boundaries to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great send-off. Got to know each other a little better upon that send-off. Actually hung out a little bit, but, throughout the course of that time, that person and your dad served their purpose for one another. And again, there's nothing negative or degrading about that. It's just the role that we are, that we play, that people fit into. They're the NPCs, right?
Yeah.
Non-player characters in your life that you have those brief interactions with.
Like
it was
that.
cool seeing them again. Maybe they have some extra dialogue with this update. Yeah.
And every now and then that NPC shows up in the middle of a quest for whatever reason, and you see him outside of that environment that one time.
Yeah, and they got that, that one really unique, super cool ability that you see once, and it's kind of a novel thing.
Oh, the NPC's a life. I like that. That's a good way to put it.
So, up one more. We went to, what was it, colleagues?
Yep.
Colleagues. Now, these are the people you work with. And
Forced interaction, for better or worse.
yeah, for better or worse. And there's even more than boundaries, there's borders that we kind of draw around ourselves too, and it depends on the kind of person you are. Maybe this person, has some sort of difference between you and them that's obvious from the word go, and it just strikes you as this isn't really my kind of person. Or you take the same kind of mentality that I do, and I'm pretty sure Adam takes a similar approach to this, is when you first get into a job. Excuse me. That's how you know we're live, people. Anyway, magic phlegm. Live phlegm. I'm here to make a paycheck, right? That's the
Right.
approach you take. I'm here to make a paycheck. I'm not here to go out of my way to make friends or romantic connections. So if you're cool with me, sweet. I'm going to try my best to be professional, and that's about the extent of it. However, if I do happen to make a couple of friends here, that's cool too. And a lot of those colleagues are just, the work NPCs. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You were saying forced interaction. Let's kind of underline that a little bit in comparing those colleagues to the NPCs, the acquaintances, right? Those acquaintances you can avoid
Yeah.
all you want, and it's easy. Maybe it's the liquor store, and
Just pick
they
a different
walk
one.
in, you just walk out and go next door today. Maybe it's the guy you ordered pizza from all the time. Well, maybe you wait another hour for that pizza for that guy's shift to be over. Or you call a different fucking number. Work? Oh no. You gotta be there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes. You have to see that person's fucking face. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? So you deal with them. Now, here's where we're going to get a little more complex. How do you deal with them? When it comes to what sort of lines they cross, how well you get along with them, so on and so forth. So let's just throw an example out there. There's this guy at work, all right? And they're at the same pay grade you are, same level of position, right? You're both working production, right? But their job is just a little different from yours, and they act as though they are your superior. They like to give you orders. They like to crinkle their judgmental fucking nose anytime they see you blur the lines a little bit when it comes to the rules of the place of employment that you're selling hours of your life to. I mean working at for a paycheck.
Elaborate on blurring the rules a little bit, because I guess that just depends. Because if you're doing something you really probably shouldn't be doing, maybe that person's just
Well, that's
kinda
breaking the
looking out.
rules.
And
What I
that's
mean by
like-
blurring the lines is like, say you work at a piece rate. Okay, you've got a certain hourly quota you got to make for a number of widgets you get through your part of the production line, right? And you kind of hover around 5 above and 5 below that quota every now and then. You're not really hurting anybody. You're not blatantly breaking any rules. But your numbers aren't really as high as, above the standard as, say, Manager Joe would like to see them. And so this fucking guy crinkles his judgmental ass nose at you and starts acting like he's a fucking supervisor all of a sudden. That kind of thing.
I mean, if it's affecting his work,
It's not.
oh, well then, yeah, fuck off.
Is that how you do it? That's
I mean,
how
I
you-
wouldn't say fuck off those exact words, but I would be like, there I am saying like again. I have that issue tonight, but I would say something along the lines of, well, I'll try better next time, but you know me, I can kill somebody with kindness real good. And then just
I
go
think
about my merry way.
The Bugs Bunny approach is usually the best one, is killing with kindness. I mean, you can try to go the route of shutting down or just not listening or letting it roll over, but really the quickest way to get them out of there, in my experience, is just to act like you acknowledge what they say and then forget about them.
Just do your fucking thing anyway.
As long as they're not breaking rules. And then we should preface this with saying that, I mean, if they're breaking the rules, they're breaking the rules. So
Right.
report that shit, find out a way to get them the fuck out of your environment to where it's not a hostile environment that we like to throw around nowadays. But if they are just blurring that line of just being a prick, usually a prick like that gets off more on you reacting in some negative way than some positive way.
Because they're trying to lure you into snapping so that they can report you and go about, doing the Mr. Burns tapping of their fingers together like that fucking snitch in that Recess show that we all know and love.
Yeah.
That fucking snitch with that notepad.
God.
Because it could be that they're that person, right? Or, just something along those lines, the all-around douche that you would really rather not. But there they are, all the time, seeking your attention. And when you said the Bugs Bunny approach, I gotta be honest, the first thing I thought of was like the big fat smooch he always gives Elmer Fudd. And just prancing away and just leaving him there like, ooh, I don't know how to feel about that.
I just got kissed by a cross-dressing rabbit.
Right. Or even
I
when he's not
liked it.
cross-dressing.
I'm rethinking everything.
Planting a big one on their face and then just scampering away. Like, that's more of my approach. Not the literal kiss, but, kind of going Daffy Duckish. And just really making them go, okay, fucking weirdo.
So you have to be careful because, I mean, some people might, also take that, well, just, try to prank them a little bit or do something so that way, fucking, I don't even know what it'd be, but it just depends on the situation. Either way, doing something in a small way to maybe get back at them to make yourself feel better. But if you care enough about that job, that's the two main points. Is if you care that you want to keep that job, so don't fucking break the rules yourself, and you are paid to be there. As long as that person isn't blatantly breaking a rule, there's not a whole fucking lot you can do about it.
Right. Yeah. So, then you kind of default to either avoidance or, like you said, sort of acknowledge what they're saying and then just go about your fucking business.
Sarcasm is a awesome tool for dealing with shitty people.
Especially when they don't grasp it.
Oh, yeah.
And then
good sarcasm,
Yeah, and you could just totally smirk to yourself as you're going back about your business, knowing that you've outwitted them, and there it is, it's done.
Because if they're a colleague or an acquaintance, whatever it may be, they may not notice. They may not understand that sarcasm as well as friends, where I know I have that problem a lot, that I'm so sarcastic that people can't pick up on it, but that's usually the best kind. So if you can get away with it, like I said, being sarcastic will get you through a lot of the shitty moments in life. Shitty people, especially.
Right. Jody.
I just had to put that out there. It just,
Public service announcement. Do not prance around your place of employment kissing people. It's an auto trip to HR.
Yeah.
More often than not, it is. It really is. But I did prank a guy at work, and we kind of got in trouble for it. It was another. It was one of those colleague buddies of mine, right? The next rung up, which is that buddy. You got your bar buddies, you got your gaming buddies, you got your work buddies, school buddies, whatever. That's a buddy of mine. Yeah, they're cool. If they were to ever, say, hey, let's go grab lunch or a cup of coffee or a fucking beer at the bar, you'd be down for it. But you wouldn't necessarily go right to their home, or you wouldn't exactly invite them to your home. And it's just at work. It's, kind of two steps above, I mean, literally in our hierarchy here, above that NPC. So anyway, this work buddy of mine and I kind of pranked this colleague. And there are good colleagues and bad colleagues, and this guy could be a buddy of mine, the poor fucker, when we got him. The guy that I pranked him with and I didn't necessarily get in trouble because it wasn't absolutely, on paper provable that it was us behind it, and it wasn't a harmful thing. What we did was we had a styrofoam cup. We filled it with paper shreds, made confetti, and we set it on an I-beam rafter that was sort of butted up against the ceiling and cornered into the wall at the same time. And we had the bottom taped to it so it would stay put, and actually rigged fishing line to this guy's desk drawer. Now, in my office, we actually, those of us in my position, we have to share a fucking desk. But we each got our own drawer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, anyway, we rigged his drawer to where, once he pulled it open, that fishing string just dumped all of this confetti on top of his head, on the desk, his chair, the floor area around him, everything. And it just...
Hilarious, but mostly harmless.
Right. And he didn't freak out. Somebody else freaked out. And it just...
Freaked out
the
because you're having too
reaction-
much fun at work.
Yeah.
They were
The
just mad they
reaction-
didn't think of it first.
That was my first guess. So anyway, and that kind of sent a message that was like, okay, here's the boundary, but we're still being kind of playful and friendly too. You know what I mean? Like, it was our way of, and I don't know if it worked or not. It seemed like it improved our relationship with this guy. But it kind of sent this message of, okay, dude, you kind of overstepped a little bit. So now we're gonna kind of put you back into place, back where you belong, but in a friendly and playful enough kind of way that kind of leaves it open that one day that buddy thing could be moved on into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
It was just humiliating enough. It was just playful enough.
Yeah, it was harmless, but I get what you mean, because a lot of people, when they go to work, you have a bigger wall up with all those colleagues or whatever it may be that you're working around, and breaking that wall down with somebody that's like you said, that maybe seems like they could be a buddy, but you're just not sure because they have that big wall up. That's an interesting way to go about it. Look, we care enough about, kind of trying to acknowledge your presence in a weird way.
Yeah.
That we're willing to go out of our way to lighten up your
included.
day, Yeah.
And the funny thing is someone wanted to bring it to the point where we would have gotten wrote up for horseplay. So it kind of danced along that line, but it was just the Bugs Bunny prance. That's all it did. So you got your work buddy, the person at work, you kind of look out for one another, but it's at work. It's within those confines, There's this other person you see at the bar out all the time. So you buy them a drink this round, and they get you one this round. You don't really party together afterwards or anything. You're not meeting each other's significant others at home or anything like that. They're on that side of that unspoken boundary, and it's one that has mutual respect.
Yeah, and it gets thrown around in a negative way a lot, but to me, there's a type of people I look at as fair weather friends, the real actual, not fuck you, you're not,
Right.
listening to me, fucking fair weather. No, these are the people that literally are, when things are good, you enjoy having them around, but they're not the person you're going to go look to when shit's bad.
Right.
Or if shit's going bad with them, you're not really out there to try to necessarily help them either.
Yeah. You know what? I think that's even a tier all on its own, because you sort of elevate that social environment buddy, right, to that friend level. And that's where you after having hung out at one another's homes or meeting out somewhere, whatever the hell, and the friendship starts to kind of blossom, and then you find out who they are. You find out that they're that good time buddy.
Mm-hmm.
They're that fair weather friend, as you put it.
Or
When you
smoking buddy.
Yeah. When you've got money in the bank, when you've got time and gas for an adventure to go on, that person is the kind of person that's fun to have tag along with you. But when all that's gone, so are they.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what happens more often than not is that they're around in your life far too long after you should have figured out the difference between a good time buddy and a friend. You've got so much stock put into them, and this also, you know, transcends the financial. It goes into the psychological, emotional, and logical, you know, whether they're the asshole or not. But they're not quite the asshole, they're not quite the leech, but they're only around when the sun is shining.
And you may only want them there when the sun is shining.
Yeah.
So I guess let's take this up past even buddy. So friend.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a friend?
There's so many things out there. So many books have been written on it. So many articles have been written and typed about it. So many conversations have been had. So many memes have been made, right? So many special episodes of your favorite sitcom have been made about what makes a friend, right? A lot of people use the example, well, a friend is somebody who's not always going to tell you exactly what you want to hear, but is going to be, you know, stepping up for your best interest, even to look you dead in the fucking eye and say, you're fucking up. And I hate to see you end up on this path you're not walking on, but driving down. And if you don't help me help you away from it or out of it or kind of make things better, then I'm afraid I don't know what to do other than cut you off, and I really don't want to do that. You know, a lot of people will say that defines a friend. To me, loyalty is a big thing when it comes to a friend, even when things aren't sunshiny, even if you're pissed off at each
I'd
other.
say especially when things aren't sunshiny.
Right. But I'm kind of going off on a different branch here. They don't talk shit about you. They don't, you know, because more often than not, when things aren't so sunshiny, they're the person you confide in about that, right? And if it's the kind of person that takes that and uses it as ammunition to smear your name when you're not around, to either make themselves look better or something other than the two following guidelines that I kind of set for myself. That A, they haven't said to you themselves, and not or, and it's not a means of trying to help. You know what I mean? Like, say you and I are bitter with each other over something, but there is something that led you down that path that has been a concern of mine for your sake, right? And you're not around, you're at work, and I'm off or whatever, so I'm talking to somebody else about it, like in a group of friends or something, so, a mutual friend. And it's like, okay, so here's what this person's going through, dude. Adam's just got himself in this fucking rut, and it's this and this and this and this. What should we do to help? You know, those guidelines are the exception to talking shit and saying, can you believe this fucking guy? He said this, he did that, he's with this person and that person, and they're doing this at that place instead of whatever might be better. What a piece of shit, right?
Well, I think that also, in that example, I think that also borders on, like, who you consider a friend and who you consider kind of like a family member, because you're more, like, for example, with Adam, if something were to be going down with Adam, we would definitely be the first two people to be like, wait a minute, something's wrong, we're gonna step in and say something about it. Or, you know, compared to, I don't know an example because all of our friends are like family, but if to that other person who we're like, ooh, something's wrong, but, you know, they have closer, you know, people who are kind of closer to them that should be stepping in. And obviously we're the kind of people that would always step in and help anybody, but
Right.
Sorry, and I think this true friendships are extremely valuable for that reason, is that a true friend can be more honest with you than anybody in your family, whether it be even if you have good parents or siblings that will be honest with you. Nobody can be more honest with you than a true friend. But in that group of friends scenario, that, you know, you can call it talking shit, but I absolutely believe that in a group of 3-4 true friends, yeah, maybe they'll say that shit to somebody's face, one of their friends' faces, but at the same time, when they've said it over and over and Adam's just not fucking getting it, then yeah, they probably vent to each other too when
Yeah.
Adam's not there. So,
But there's still that there's still that out for their best interest.
yeah. And there, like I said, there's a
Motive
difference
to
between
it.
venting and talking shit. So,
Right.
you know, you might be venting, and, you know, I had this conversation with Adam, and I could just tell he wasn't giving two shits about anything I had to say. Yeah, but it should transition into, so what do we do? Or, you know, well, fuck, man, I don't know what to do at this point for him.
Right.
You know, that's what a true friendship is somebody caring enough that it pisses them off
Yeah.
when you won't listen to even take in some of their perspective on that situation you may be in.
Right. But what throws a person completely out of that category and right down into the leech tier is when any of the examples we've just given of those conversations is really out for that person's self-interest, for their image, and to only benefit them. That's when they're just exploiting your personal shit just to disparage you for their sake, for the sake of their image, for the sake of their rapport with these other buddies, associates, or colleagues.
Or to make them seem like they're actually
Superior.
closer to you than what said
yeah.
person actually is. Or
Yeah.
like the person they're talking to is.
So they're using you in that way.
Yeah.
So that throws them right out of the friend category and into the leech category. And so, you know, with these kinds of conversations about, you know, trying to look out for this person, trying to look out for Adam in this instance. Sorry, man.
No, sorry. Appreciate y'all looking out for me.
Yeah, but this is where it kind of goes into that family thing where, you know, you and I have had this conversation over and over again. You know, yeah, you're my best friend, but more importantly, dude, you're my brother.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm going to throw that harsh shit out there. But at the same time, all of the above applies. Whereas, if there's any of those dark times, if there's anything I can do to help, if I have the means, call me first. If there's any advice that I want or that I might have for you, you and I, between one another, are going to be that first call. You know, when times are good, times are bad, pissed off at each other, whatever the case may be, you're not getting rid of me short of, you know, an ultimate level of betrayal that would shatter worlds.
And I think that, you know, part of that trust that goes into a friendship is on a certain level of vulnerability. When you have a friend, you are willing to be more vulnerable with that friend. You are willing to talk about this dark shit that's going on in your life, or this big decision that you have ahead of you that maybe not necessarily be something you want to share with most people, but this person you trust enough that regardless of what they have to say about it, regardless of what they think about it, you have enough trust in them that will either stay between you or just... I'm having a hard time articulating this, but just, you said that level of vulnerability is a big thing, I think, in friendship, is you wouldn't drop that wall with most people.
No.
This is a true friend, and I definitely think there's another level we're going to go to this with family, but just sticking to the friendship side,
Yeah.
with friends, you're willing to have that vulnerability with. You're willing to, like I said, just let them in on some of this stuff that most people you wouldn't be comfortable with knowing it. And I don't know how much time plays a factor in a friendship. Obviously, there is some amount of time it takes to build that trust, but that doesn't necessarily mean it takes 2 years to develop a true friendship.
There's definitely a quality over quantity dynamic there.
Right.
But when it's a consistent, abundant amount of quantity or, you know, of time that has carried that level of quality throughout, that's your proving ground. And just how much of that time is really subjective. It's up to the individuals.
I'm trying to think of that saying, how it goes, like, you don't learn who your real friends are until you go through shit, but there's that other side of that saying. I can't remember what it is. Anyhow, but, I mean, that's the sad reality of it, is you'll never really know.
Yeah.
You know, anybody can be a good friend when shit's going good.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. But when things are when you are going through a rough spot in life for whatever reason, that is when you learn who's actually there for you and who's just there because of the good times.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think that some people, you see that with people that have a lot of money, that they have a hard time figuring out who their true friends are because they don't go through a lot of hard times.
There's never that hardship, yeah.
Financial hardship is a common one, especially for us, but, maybe they lose their father that they're really close to, even though they have a ton of money, 3 houses and all that shit, and now everybody disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Then they finally learn that, oh shit, all these people that for the last 20 years I thought were friends,
I actually have nobody.
And that's a certain level of loneliness that nobody deserves.
Yeah. I kind of went through something like that. When I first got out of the Army, it was fucking back to mom and dad's at first. And then I moved into an apartment with a couple of guys that, I was friends with since elementary school. We've had those kinds of up and down times throughout growing up, right? And then one of those hard times came, and it was like, well, guess what, guys? We're getting evicted. And then there was some reason that followed that, I easily bought, and fuck, it was back to mom and dad's again. And then, oh, well, these guys are still in the apartment, and I'm not. That really fucking boiled my eggs. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that euphemism came from, but
we're starting it here.
You know what? I'm going to justify it.
Who doesn't like boiled eggs?
You know what? I'm going to justify it here real quick. In Spanish, testes are often referred to as huevos, while the literal translation is eggs. So imagine your balls being put into some boiling water. How about that?
Ouch.
That shit fucking hurts.
Yeah.
All right, so that really boiled my eggs, man.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Really grinds my gears?
Now, Peter.
Killing strippers.
So anyway, after that, I kind of went house hunting with a couple of people and everything else. I found a place, and it was my first place by myself, since the Army, and maybe even first ever. But I was in a duplex out in the middle of the country, just turned 21.
Oh, wow.
And so my fridge was packed with beers and mixers and wine coolers, and my freezer was filled with just liquors, just different types of liquor, and ice. That was it. There was not a scrap of keep refrigerated food in my fridge. There was no food. None. Except maybe lemons and limes. That's it. And it was party after party after party after party, and I would have anywhere between probably 6 to 20 people in that place at a time. There was nobody living upstairs. It was a downstairs apartment in this duplex. And it was awesome. It was great. Then I lost my job. And party days turned into binge drinking. And where were all those people? I'll tell you where they weren't. They weren't right there when the girl I wound up getting with and my mother were forcibly moving me out of that house. Like, they started coming by and taking my shit out of that place while I was sitting there half asleep and hungover, cracking open my first few beers of the fucking day. And just, it was all happening around me. and I was just sitting there in a haze. But I was so stubborn and pissed off that I didn't want to lift a finger to help until I finally did.
Oh, you're in a dark place.
And it was back to mom and dad's I go. And this binge, up until that point, went on for months. And I'll never forget this day. My dad stopped by. It was early morning, to me at least, November. And he stops by with a 6-pack of beer. I saw Dad at the door with beer. Fuck yes! Now, not to go all fucking leaning back on the chase, talking to Freud here or anything, but, like, growing up, I always wanted and tried to achieve my dad's approval. Like, I would kill to be the reason that guy smiled. You know what I mean? So, of course, having a beer with my dad was something I always wanted. Here I am, finally 21, and able to have, actually a couple of beers with my dad. So, of course, I let him in. We kill that 6-pack. I know it's not even close to noon yet. And he finally goes, so, what are your plans for later on today? I'm like, well, I'm pretty much broke. My gas is kind of low. I don't know what's going on. It's Thanksgiving. Are you going to come with us to Grandma's or what? Holy shit! So there's your family in the literal sense versus those good time friends and those party buddies. Where, I was making at the time more money than I ever had before, partying all the fucking time. Had beer pong going, had cards going, had darts going. It was awesome all the time.
Living that frat life.
And it was just fucking gone with the money. That's all there was to it. And really, it was, in this case, quite literally, my family picking me back up. So then we kind of get into two different types of family, right? You got your blood family that you were born into, and the branches are out from there with who married into this family and cousins and aunts and uncles. And
so if you look it up, the dictionary definition is pretty much family is somebody from a common ancestor.
Right. Yeah. And there is a bond there, and those vary too. There's always that one cousin nobody fucking likes.
Yeah.
There's always that one uncle that's weird.
That aunt that has that horrible laugh.
Yeah, the aunt that has a horrible laugh. The pedantic aunt, the real snooty type.
Oh, yeah.
And you got... Jody, come on, give us another one. Give us another one.
Hold on, I'm still trying
The
to.
general cookie cutter family member.
I'm trying to compose myself.
The black sheep cousin.
The black. Yeah, I was just gonna
Black
say
sheep
that.
cousin, yeah.
You got your golden child. The super success, the one whose parents, whether it's the same parents you've got or it's those aunts and uncles or cousins of the aunt-uncle generation, they can't just fucking shut up about that golden child of theirs, right? What's another one?
I didn't have one, but I've seen a lot of the cool single uncle.
Yeah.
Never tied down by anything, always just having a great fucking time.
The cool uncle, the one that's always throwing you off the dock or throwing you into the pool.
What about the badass aunt that drives the motorcycle and has a PhD? And yeah, maybe that's just my family, but
I haven't been that one.
I mean that.
I love you, Aunt Roxy, if you're listening.
Yeah. and that one can really, flip genders. God, there was one that was on the tip of my tongue. The burnout. The burnout, the fuck up, right? The one that likes to think they're the black sheep, but they're the fuck up.
Yeah, they really just
they're just in and out of
a pit of their own despair.
Yeah.
Life wouldn't be so bad if they just put down the pipe. And
Something.
not like the fun pipe, the bad pipe.
Right. So anyway, you got all of these things, and that's the family that you didn't choose. You're just born into it. You're raised into it, and that's what it is. And there's certain members of the family that you get along great with. The cousin you drive off with and smoke a bowl or a blunt before the Thanksgiving dinner's actually ready, and you both come back blazed as fuck, and everyone else is just like, oh, something smells funny, but they just went for a walk, kind of thing. And there's the one you avoid at all costs. And sometimes it is your brother or sister.
All right, like I said, just that super successful one that's always got something new that they got to show off. And
Oh, yeah.
that is, yeah, I know what you're saying with there's a lot of those cookie cutter types in each family is different, but for us, we tend to be more in that neutral territory of we don't have a ton of shit going wrong and a ton of shit going right. So, for us, you got both those blends, and usually I get along with the ones who are more in that away from the super successful, snotty type out there.
Yeah. So that's your blood family, or, for some of you, adopted family, foster family, whatever the hell. It's the one you didn't choose, right? And we get into the ones you did pick. The ones that have transcended and sometimes even just climbed step by step from acquaintance to colleague to buddy to friend. And now that's the person that you're stuck with. And again, we're stepping away from the romantic. Okay? We're stepping away from boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever the hell. Life partners, sexual partners, all of that shit. And the gender roles are interchangeable too. It could be a female friend that you've deemed your sister, whatever. They're proven. Whether they've climbed the rungs or whether they just leapfrogged all the way the fuck up there and just proved it right there first and foremost. By the way, that kind of creates a dynamic. That kind of sets a difference there. What would be, in your opinion, more valuable? That one person that you refer to as a brother or sister that you chose, that you feel has earned that, or at least has proven that? Do you think the one that's actually climbed up the rungs is to be more valued than the one that just kind of jumped right up to that platform? Or is it vice versa?
When you say jumped up to that platform, how so?
Like, they weren't a leech or an acquaintance, really, or buddy, or any of those things. They went straight to friend and then just elevated themselves right to that brother-sister spot, that family spot.
I feel like it would be the same. I mean, if you've earned that level of loyalty and trust out of me, it's it's not a favoritism type game because you started from the bottom and now we're here. It's literally we've been through all this shit together, regardless of if we just were friends from the beginning or started at work and then eventually became family. I don't think it really makes a difference. Once you've reached that level, you reach that level. However you got there, you got there.
Okay. At some point with both, at some point with both, you've connected on a certain level to where they've then proven themselves worthy to get to that point. I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, personally, it takes a lot for you to get into a good standing part in my book.
Well, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
And you become wiser to all these things and all the pitfalls that lessons learned. You've opened up that vulnerability to so many different people who've just pissed all over it and then laughed in your face.
Some of the hardest truths to swallow.
Right. And you've been burned so many times, so you find yourself becoming more wary of that. Or maybe, they're just more temporary than you thought. I like the other cookie cutter role that with the family you didn't choose role, Melissa just brought up the pervert. Every family's got the pervert.
The pervert?
Yeah. Whether that's your mom or your dad or your cousin or aunt or uncle or whatever. Even if you only see them at reunions, there's always that one. For some reason, every time they catch your eye, it's with a hand down their pants, or they're leering at somebody in a certain, pervy, creepy kind of way. And you just get that vibe. You know, it's kind of like IDV, but it's...
How much?
IDP.
Whoa. Whoa. That sounded like way
Or no, wait,
harsher
not
than you
IDP.
intended, I think.
No, IPV is what I meant. Instant
Now
perv vibe.
that's sounding way too
Yeah.
close to clinical.
I guess.
Like
if
there
you
should
or
be
someone
pills
you
for that.
love have experienced
Yeah.
these symptoms, please dial.
Yeah, like I think it's one of those.
Side effects may include,
Yeah.
but not limited to.
But more along the lines of those seedy 2 a.m. commercials between the 12th and 13th episode of, what's the show? 2.5 Men Marathon Nightly that TBS has running or whatever. Like those mesothelioma commercials that you know are horribly produced, but they make it out to be like, you could be a millionaire.
If you have type 2 diabetes.
Melissa, you married a family member that was a pervert? I am so sorry, Nate. I mean, I know Tiffin, but damn. Damn.
Well, she must be a little bit of one herself then.
Well, sure. Well, I mean, you know, I love my little quips and little catchphrases and shit. Like in high school, I used to just say, no. I'm not perverted. I'm sexually spirited.
Sexually spirited.
That's what I am. Huh? What?
Nothing.
You're...
I got smoke in my face.
Was that what that was? What do you? Yeah, I know. Okay, Nate is the pervert, but I was...
I feel like that's probably a
wow. I'm
not
hoping
on
not
air.
a family member, because I was about to be very, very shocked, very surprised, and in dire need of a new conversation with you guys and a little therapy, Melissa. But ultimately, I'm just fucking with you. I love you guys. No, I know you and Nate are not related, and Nate is a pervert, and you guys fit together so perfectly, it's almost disgusting. Almost. So anyway, that's what's going on. Okay. All right. Touche. You win. Don't hurt me. Damn, I forgot where I was going now.
So, family. When someone transcends that friendship, I mean, because true friend still has a lot to it. I mean, like I said, that's vulnerability, that, consistency of somebody that you want to keep up with on a regular basis. To me, family is that type of person that you're such good friends with that you can go 5 years without talking to them. Maybe you move away.
Yeah.
You get involved. Both of you have families all of a sudden and jobs, whatever it may be, that keeps you from having that consistent relationship you had at one time. Then all of a sudden, one of you move back, and it's like you guys never lost time at all. That to me is family at that point.
Yeah.
That's where, our friendship wasn't just based around consistency and that vulnerability. The fact is, no matter where we're at or how long goes by, the day that I see your number call me, I'm going to pick up, and it's going to be like day one all over again.
Yeah. Or you're picking up the phone like, oh, well, I haven't heard from this fucker in a few months. I wonder what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what they need.
Yep.
No, it's like, oh, fuck, cool. All right, you already know. We're going to touch base.
Oh, shit, man. It's been 3 years? What the fuck?
Yeah. You're fucking excited. Another indication that you've reached that level of friendship or transcended that and gotten into the family role is if you've got kids out there, that person is Aunt blank or Uncle blank. Like my kids, they have Uncle Adam.
Oh, yeah.
They have Aunt Manda and Uncle Nick.
Yep.
They have, you know what I mean? And that, exposure is kind of a factor there. Like, I love Nate and Melissa to death. My kids wouldn't know to refer to them as Aunt Mel and Uncle Nate because, they just don't know them that well. They haven't seen them that much.
It's
They,
that consistency,
Yeah.
being really in that life, not just over a conversation on your phone,
Right.
but actually in house. They're seeing you on some sort of regular basis.
Yeah. Uncle Scott, Uncle TJ.
But they
Right.
know enough to when those people come over that when you refer to them as, oh, come say hi to,
Yeah.
Aunt Mel or Uncle Nate or Uncle Scott, they're like, they, at some level, they realize, oh, well, this person isn't just a friend to Daddy.
Right. Yeah.
They're someone closer to Daddy. Therefore, oh, well, and, our boy, he'll just
Yeah, you're
climb
right.
onto anybody.
The
But
implication is definitely there.
I think legacy has kind of, shifted in our society too. I think there was a point where, life was a lot more Games of Thrones-ish, where you wanted that your name to live on, and regardless of the shitty people in your family, you had to pick them up because they carried your last name and you had to carry that
Yeah.
last name. Nowadays, we're, thanks to all the positive things that we have done in this society, are able to say, you know what, that uncle's kind of a shithead. I'm just
Yeah.
not going to associate with him anymore. I don't give a fuck if he shares
Yep.
my last name, my blood. They're an asshole. Too fucking bad. Or that
Yep.
cousin that I spent a lot of time with as a kid, while they've grown up to be a shithead, I don't want to be around them anymore. They're
Yeah.
a toxic person. So that meaning of family, of being from that having that ancestral background, doesn't mean as much anymore than what it did 100, 200, 300 years ago. Now, to me, that same feeling you're supposed to have towards family, we can now put towards those friendships that mean more to us than the people that just share that blood with us.
Yeah, there definitely is a large change over time with being able to actually choose who you associate with and who you do and don't hold dear.
Survival had a lot to play into that back then.
Yeah.
You had to have this community of people, and the easiest community you had to lean on was the people that shared your ancestry. That was,
Right.
when times were tough on the farm, you went to your uncle or your cousin or something like, hey, we need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Versus the people you may have liked partying with or something way back then, but they're not going to give up any of their food for their family, and not just their wife and kids or husband and kids, but
Their clan.
their clan. Yeah. Back then it just wasn't even something you did because you had to look out for yours.
These folks is kin.
Yeah. Now
You ain't
yours
missing.
is the people that, you choose to keep around. And, some people have large groups. Others, I tend to try to keep a smaller group of people because I'm already shitty about communicating with the people I do like. So communicating with a bunch of people I don't like is damn near impossible. But I do think that there's something to the fact that we just live in a world now where, it's easier to pick and choose who you want to keep as a regular person in your life. And to the point that, I would take a bullet for your kids,
Oh, likewise.
and, that's not something I would say about some of the other people that we associate with on a regular basis that I consider my friend, that it's like, no, I kind of got to be here for my kids. Sorry.
Yeah.
As much as I love your kids and all that, it's not at that level versus, and, certain level kids, I'd probably take a bullet for any kid depending, but either way, you know what I'm saying, that it would be an automatic, no question about it type of thing versus with anybody else in your life, there would at least be that hesitation of, no, I just don't know you that well. I'm not going to put myself on a limb for you when it could cost me all of this.
Well, and with that being said, I really think it's important that once you, at some point in your life, for your own well-being and your family's, you kind of have to step back and look at, the bigger picture with all these people involved in your life, who is, better for, what am I trying to say here? You have to weed out those people that are not going to be beneficial to your family and everybody you consider your family. Otherwise, it'll
well-being.
in your well-being, or it will drag, the whole clan down. I see, family,
Yeah.
clan, same thing. because you are looking out for more than just you. You're looking out for your family and your children and your family's children and all that.
Sure, and it's one of the many many benefits to what we've evolved into being an individualistic society, where a lot of these traditional attitudes have been shaken off. It's not always a bad thing, and it's not always over a feud. It's more over a recognition of, it's okay to be so selfish anymore as to go through that process of thinking, and in a domestic partnership discussion of, what individuals are more toxic for our household, our survival, our well-being, whether it is financial or emotional or any of the others, the other aspects that we've already mentioned or maybe haven't.
And that should be an easy decision. I mean,
and it gets easier and easier. I mean, even in our lifetimes, we've seen how dynamic of a change society has made from traditional aspects and attitudes trumping individualistic interests, and individualism has kind of taken over that. Because while a lot of those, stick to your roots mentalities have all kinds of wonderful benefits and perks. That's what I'm getting at. At the same time, there's a lot of harm that can come with some of those, depending on what they are and the nature of them.
Oh, some of the worst leeches in life can come from family.
Yeah.
That brother or sister, that cousin that, like I said, needs a ride everywhere and anywhere because they lost their license because they were drinking and out driving too many fucking times and eventually got caught up in it. Now they're calling you up all the time because you're the closest person to them to help them with this, help them with that, and also vent to you about their problems, but at the same time don't want to ever help you with yours. At the same time, don't ever throw you any gas money, even though they have plenty of money to throw gas money. They could probably pay their own fucking cab, but they would rather ask you because they've asked you 100 times and you're still willing to do it.
Right, and it's anything from something as simple and cost-effective as advice to actual cash money to, putting them up in your place. Whether it's a house or apartment or trailer, whatever you live in, you put them up, give them a place to rest their head. Anything between that. And they've just shit on it, taken advantage, fallen into the same pattern that led them to whatever hardship, and just take advantage of you to the point where it's draining you or taking away from you or your kids, your domestic partner, sexual partner, whether they're the same or different roles. And that's another thing that could be a rub when it comes to friends. Sometimes maybe that friend is kind of toxic to your domestic livelihood. Maybe that person you've befriended has become toxic to your professional environment, whether you recognize it or not, or maybe your partner has recognized it, whether it's a business partner in the professional world, a coworker in the professional world, or a supervisor, or in the domestic world. Your romantic partner, your domestic partner, kind of saying, hey, listen, Jody, we've been letting this person kind of take and take and take. Or, whether it's money or financial resources or vital things, look, we really don't get our time together anymore. They're sort of taking away from our relationship homeostasis, our romantic well-being, and we got to figure out a different way to handle this, because what we've been doing so far has not been helping us, especially when and if there are kids involved, especially when and if in the professional world a promotion is on the line, or maybe your very job. So how do you handle that?
Well, see, to me, if at any point that was ever said, maybe that's just who I am, but that's an automatic red flag to me, and I'm going to do everything and anything I can to resolve that issue immediately, because nothing is more important to me than said relationship and, of course, the children, no matter who it is.
Right. And it's really up to the individual, and
every situation's different, I'm sure, but
right, any involved party, it depends on that individual. It depends on the individual in question. Meaning that third person, whether it's that friend or family member that's running interference, or whether it's that colleague or work buddy that's running that interference in your relationship or domestic well-being, or in your professional well-being. And it'll also depend on, whether it's, that friend of yours that maybe you're getting in the way of their relationship. It'll depend on them, whether or not they recognize the interference, or even beyond that, the toxicity that maybe you've, or I, or whoever has been unintentionally bringing to that scene, or the person that's kind of calling it out and saying, hey, listen, we got to talk about this. It could depend on that person, because maybe that person, just has some sort of resentment toward that friend of yours, has some sort of resentment toward that family member of yours. And so this trying to reduce time and exposure with that individual that they feel is running interference, whether the conversation they're trying to bring up to cease that is strictly self-serving or not, or whether it's to better serve the domestic or romantic homeostasis in your home life, but maybe they've got a misconception. It'll also depend on you yourself, that this partner of yours is trying to talk to about this issue. And, it all depends on the individual and what they deem, or who they deem the priority is, and whether or not they're ready or willing to strike that balance through compromise.
Well, not going too much further into it, I think that kind of touches back to our relationships topic that we had, where conversation is definitely key, and there has to be that open and free, communication between two people. When it's in that, for that example, there definitely has to be a free space where everything can be like a safe zone, so to speak, where everything can be said, and without feeling that one's gonna automatically judge,
or like feeling like you're stepping into an interrogation.
Exactly. Yeah. Or feeling that, okay, well, this is how I feel. I don't know how you feel, but I'm afraid to say this because I don't want to hurt you, sort of deal.
Okay.
But communication is definitely key.
Oh.
Getting,
Yeah. And I think compatibility has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, that touches on the vulnerability type thing.
Feeling for that moment where that this is the right time and right way to have this conversation. Compatibility has a lot to do with it. Like, and this spans across friendships, professional relationships, and romantic relationships. Being able to kind of feel out that other person, knowing that something's on their mind, and being able to stop and go, okay, so what's up? What's going on?
Yeah, even if it's not completely obvious, it's not like they have a scowl on their face or anything like that. Just knowing that they're not being their typical self, that they may seem a little more shut down. They may seem a little less excited or whatever. Maybe they just seem more anxious. Whatever it may be, you can pick up on that better because of how well you know them. But to that aspect of compatibility, yeah, I think there is sometimes that almost unspoken, almost quantum level of extra feeling you get from this person that you don't normally get out of other people. Like, you can sense something about them even with their back turned.
Yeah. You sense that something's on their mind waiting to just burst forth, but they haven't quite felt out the right moment. Or, maybe you sense that they're feeling cagey or whatever along those lines. And there's definitely a right and wrong, several examples of right and wrong ways to initiate that conversation. One of the moves my mom was notorious for. Okay, and you know the feeling, that dynamic you get if you're in any more unique situations like myself, Adam, Jody have been in, where there's been a portion of your life that you actually cognitively remember your parents being together, right? You as the kid can kind of sense both sides of that, but you really can't put your finger on it yet because you've still got a very naive sense of it, and you're not quite to the point of wisdom where you can actually identify it. Like, okay, I can feel that Dad's got this sense that Mom's got something on her mind that's going to burst forth if something doesn't bring it out of her, but he's waiting out that right moment. So now there's this unspeakable, or not unspeakable, that's not the word I'm looking for, intangible sort of tension. So I'm just going to kind of slowly back out of the room a little bit, and off we go.
I used to call it the radiation effect. Like,
yeah.
Mom was a ticking fucking time bomb when it came to some things, and you could just feel the radiation in the room, and you just wanted to get out because it was going to make you say, even if it wasn't you that caused it, like, it just, shit was about to go down, and you did not want to be in the aftermath. Head to the bunker now.
And it wasn't always an impending argument, but you know that there was a discussion that needed to be had. Yeah. Well, my mom, what I was saying was, she was notorious for this move. She would just walk into the room, like, on a mission, beeline, straight for the remote, or if she couldn't spot it right away, the TV itself, and shut it off. And we're going to have this out right now. Or maybe it's in the evening time, right? And it's not quite sunshiny outside, so you got a few lights off around the house. She would flip that light on, and all of a sudden it is bright, and you look over to the source, you know where that switch is because you know that light just turned on in the corner of your eye, and there she stood. Or, none of the above is applicable. Dad's reading a book. She would snatch it right out of his hands with her finger in the page that he was on and hold it up and say, "We're doing this now. We are having this talk." She would do the same thing with me and Tom. And, it would also depend on the individual. Dad would, "What the hell?" Tom would, "Did you just?" Myself, I would be just this incredulous look on my face, just kind of glaring up and going, "Oh shit, here we go." "What? Don't look at me like that. You have my attention." And then it was on. So that, Mom, I love you. I'm pretty sure this house has lightning rods, so please don't try to strike me right now and burn the house down around my ears. Thank you. Kids are sleeping. But that, dude, major examples of the wrong fucking way to do it. And there are more extremes. There's that raging fuckhead that'll just run into a room and flip a table and just start with the fist flying.
See, no, the opposite of that can be just as bad, though. The person that bottles it up. See, I come from a place where people used to, when they had issues and stuff like that, wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't bring it up. And sometimes that can be worse. Like, I would almost appreciate more as maybe with a little bit of the rudeness taken out. Don't snatch the book out of my hands, but
Yeah.
shut the TV off and, like, yeah, let's have this out. Because I mean, tends to be more my way about it too. I don't want to sit on this feeling.
Yeah.
Let's fucking get this over with, talk it out, and get back to good times, you know,
Yeah.
however that may be. But then you have the other side, like I said, that would be, you know, for whatever reason, these people keep bottling it up, and this goes wrong, this little thing goes wrong, this little thing goes wrong, and you can tell that shit's going wrong, but nobody's acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Everybody's just acting like everything's going to be okay and everything's fine till eventually that one moment hits where the final thing goes wrong, and yeah, they lose their shit. And it may not even be a big thing. It may just be that last little thing that goes wrong, and now they're taking all of that energy out on this little thing and not acknowledging that it's actually these 20 things that went wrong first, and we're not even going to have a good conversation about it because you're so fixated on this one thing that went wrong that you're not being honest with yourself that it was actually this culmination of things.
Yeah, I used to be a bad bottler.
Yeah.
I totally get it. And that can also lead to toxic relationships.
Absolutely. And, you know, yeah, now we're kind of honing back into,
The
or at least it sounds like we're honing back into the specifics of the domestic partnership, romantic relationship. But
well, I mean,
again,
like
it
friends
transcends.
too. Yeah, because I mean,
it transcends all that, and yeah, it goes across the board. At work, this shit happens.
right. If you bottle your true feelings towards your leech friends or the leeches or your colleagues, I think it's probably worse if it's with your colleagues because then it's going to come a day at work where you could
Someone's
potentially
job
get
is on their line.
Yeah, you could potentially get unprofessional, and that's no good either. But
Right. Yeah, no, the communication is always key, especially when there's an issue. And, you know, I think some of that bottling it up kind of thing, and this is kind of an indicator of a toxic relationship, is when, you know, you're kind of waiting for that right moment to do that. Like, okay, maybe after the kids are in bed, or okay, maybe after we're through with this episode of whatever the hell, or maybe after we eat, you know, we can have a smoother transition into this discussion because hanger is real. You know, whatever. But the right moment never comes. And then in the meantime, that little thing, and that other little thing, and that other little thing, and that other little thing, and waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, that's when the pressure starts building. That's when the powder keg starts filling, and that's when someone with a book of matches is over there fucking around.
the Mento drops into the Pepsi. Sorry, I just had to say
And
it.
kaboom. Yeah. So when it's never the right moment to bring that to the table, that could very well be a red flag that indicates a toxic relationship.
Because you're not willing to have that vulnerability with that person to sit down and have this conversation.
Right. Or maybe you once were, but that's gone among maybe some other things that went away that you thought were there.
Or you tried a couple times to have conversations similar to that to the past, and then it never went well. It led to a long period of not talking. It led into some, you know, shit kicking back and forth of, well, fuck you and fuck you for this and this, you know, whereas this person used to, you know, you had good times and bad times together and made it through, but now so much bad has gone wrong and so little has been done to rectify that in a relationship that, yeah, it's just the bad sitting out there waiting to be thrown in each other's face all the time instead of, okay, let's talk about this and figure it out.
Right.
So I was on Reddit a couple weeks ago, and I read a story that kind of highlights the difference between all these groups.
Mm-hmm.
There was this guy that, and I'm going to paraphrase the fuck out of this, but this guy met a girl at work that he could tell was, you know, kind of just that colleague, buddy, friend at work, and she was somewhat into video games and stuff like that, but he also was a part of this D&D group with 4 of his buddies, 4 male friends. One of them being probably more of that true friend, and the rest of them more just being there because of the gaming. So he decides, because he wants to try to get a little closer with this girl on some level, invites her to get into D&D with him. So now you got this group of 4 guys and the one girl coming into this D&D group with no romantic part of it being there yet. Well, slowly over a couple weeks of gaming, there started being a lot of bad vibes in the group because you had 3-4 guys competing for this girl's attention inside the group, and to the point that it was starting to affect even outside the group of fighting between these dudes that wasn't necessarily related to the girl or D&D in itself, but just extra tension, yes.
Yeah.
Between these guys, and like I said, taking it out on other small bullshit between each other that wouldn't even really matter had this girl not joined in, and that there was this competition for her affection. And to the point that this girl was even talking about with dude at work that she wants to quit the group because she can tell that she's having this effect on there.
That's sad.
So, he was basically asking Reddit for help with the situation. What do I do? And a lot of it was, you need to talk to these dudes. You need to figure out what the fuck's going on. And he went out and he talked to that one true friend and kind of got that, hey dude, I'm interested in her too, type thing. But he couldn't really have that conversation with the other guys. He didn't know how to approach it. He didn't know how to rectify the situation, even if that was the conversation with them, to the point that he wasn't sure if he wanted to stay part of the group of D&D. And a lot of people on Reddit ended up telling him that, well, what you really need to do first, outside of talking to these people, first thing is talking to these dudes to make it so this girl can have a fucking comfortable gaming experience. But the second thing you need to do is, if you have some feelings for this girl, you need to fucking jump on that. And you need to just put it out there with her that, hey, this isn't just me trying to be buddy-buddy with you. Not take yourself out of the friend zone, dude, and figure out if this is going to be something or not, which he did. And turns out she liked him too, of course, because she was fucking coming there to play D&D because she was interested in him too. And it actually, even though the one friend was interested in her as well, being that more true friend, it was, all right, man, you know what? You did meet her first.
Damn.
You kind of brought her into this. I'll back away a little bit, but you better make your move or I'll fucking make mine.
Yeah.
And I think out of the other 2 guys, one of them just straight said, fuck y'all, I'm just out. And the other one, figured out, all right, I didn't have a chance in hell. I still want to game with you guys. I have fun doing this.
Yeah.
You're going to start, having some more of a romantic side with this girl, but let's all game together and keep that going. And that's, to me, kind of highlights those different friend groups of, you had that fair weather one who was only there to have a good time, and once he realized that he wasn't going to get this affection from the girl, he said, fuck this, I'm out. You had that more buddy, or I'd say, friend, between buddy and friend, of guy that also wanted that affection, but realized when he was out of that game, and rightfully so, well, I still like you guys enough to keep having this good time with you. And then that more true friend of that, as soon as he had that conversation, was because he could, said, dude, I understand. You have every right to make your move first. I'll step back, but understand, dude, that if your move goes bad or whatever, I'm going to make mine too. But you get first dibs type shit, which isn't the way it should work, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like I said, just breaks down those different levels in just that one group of regular meetups with these people. That's how you figure out who is at which level. If you can have that type of conversation with somebody of, we're both interested, but yeah, I understand that you were there first. You get, and obviously I see there's something there between you two also.
Yeah.
They're willing to not, to me, what makes that person a true friend is even goes past that, though. It would be, they're not only willing to take that step back, but also help you in that endeavor a little bit.
Yeah.
They're willing to go out of their way to maybe even help foster you getting in that relationship with them, even if they're interested as well.
Sure.
But they understand that, you have that right.
They're your friend first.
Right. And they want to see you happy as much as they are interested in this girl. There's plenty of fish in the sea, and like I said, obviously I see that you two had this connection before we did.
That's a great example that highlights all those dynamics. Damn, what a find. Reddit.
Yeah, that's a great find.
But just, like I said, to me that was a good example that highlights, and
It's an excellent example.
It can just be tough to tell until shit like that happens. That's not a financial hardship one or anything like that, or more romantic hardship one amongst all these guys that were in this group. But
it was definitely a pertinent conversation to be had that served as a catalyst that defined who was where.
Yep.
In that.
And sometimes you got to resort it out. You have to get rid of that dude that's like, fuck this, I'm not going to have a good time with you guys unless I'm the one that got this girl's attention the entire time. Well, good, that's a fucking leech. Get him the hell out of your life and out of that situation, because he's not going to fight. Yeah, it's good when things are good, but as soon as it wasn't their way, good,
Peace.
they were gone.
Yeah. So let's get into some final thoughts here, and I don't want to take away, but that serves as a great final thought right there.
Yeah, that was great.
I mean, what a great way to sum that up. I know we meant to kind of get in, dive back into professional relationships and networking. We wanted to kind of roll that in together, and pair up what we had planned between tonight and last night. We don't really have a whole lot of time to do that, but I do want to kind of touch quickly on that. And that's that in a lot of instances, a lot of those different levels or degrees of association, or a lot of those differences in dynamics of those friend zones, one's not always better than the other, right? There's a lot of those acquaintances and worker bar buddies that lead to networking opportunities that, the sole benefit of climbing those rungs, as we put it earlier, it's not the only thing there. And a lot of times it'll be just those acquaintances or just those colleagues or just those buddies, with all of the boundaries acknowledged and abided by, that you get the most mutually beneficial and optimal networking opportunities, whether it's business networking or meeting a romantic interest through one of those people or whatever. These connections are all a good thing. The only one that stands out from the rest that you really, it's good to recognize, but even better to get rid of, are those leeches. The ones that, just drain you in all the ways that we've already mentioned. Jody, what do you got?
No, I mean, you totally just took my final thought. Yeah, get rid of the leeches, for sure. They're going to be no help to you whatsoever. They were no help to you in the past. They will not be any help to you in the future.
Yeah. Well, the silver lining to that cloud is that they are lessons learned. You still have that little scar. You still have that little, that little tinge of pain every time you push on that spot on your arm or your leg where the leech was once attached. That kind of reminds you, oh, this is what I look for. With that, I think we're going to get back into what next week? Geekdom, you think?
Yeah, I think Geekdom's next up.
Let's get back into Geekdom. I think I see another Scott appearance in our future.
Absolutely.
And more intense discussions on the world of geekdom. We'll see you next week, fuckers. Thanks for bearing with us through our technical difficulties. Again, welcome back, Adam. You've been very, very much missed.
Good to be back.
On to the next.
All right.